Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her Guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. What can we learn from the story of Bhagwan Ram's exile into the jungle in the Ramayana about the importance of humility and sacrifice? So, in the Hindu tradition, in the tradition that we call Sanatan Dharma, tradition based on the Vedas or the Vedic tradition, we have many sources of knowledge. We have the Vedas, we have the Upanishads, we have the Bhagavad Gita, and we have many, many stories. Some of the stories are in the Puranas. And we have two main epics, the epic of the Mahabharata and the epic of the Ramayana. The Bhagavad Gita is a part of the epic of the Mahabharata, telling the story of Bhagwan Krishna, his message, his life. And then we have the Ramayana, the message of Bhagwan Ram, the story of his life and his message. And it's an incredibly powerful story, and there's many ways to look at these stories. One way, of course, is historical. We know that Bhagwan Ram is not just people talk about a mythological figure or our mythology. This is not mythology, this is history. Now, it's also spiritually inspiring. So it takes the place of what you could consider in other traditions to be mythology, as in stories that are meant to teach us something. But we know actually that this is history as well. There's a lot of archaeological evidence that verifies many, many of the aspects of the Ramayana, of the War of Lanka. Several years ago, NASA actually found underwater the bridge between India and Sri Lanka. Images came out of NASA showing this underwater bridge that literally dated back to the times of the Ramayana. So one way of looking at these things is historical. What's the archaeological evidence that we have? Who was this historical figure of Ram? But more frequently, we look at it as scripture. Because even though there was a historical being, and he actually did quite a bit of that which we are told in the Ramayana because we have the evidence showing it, more importantly than that is the relevance of his life and his teachings today, so the scriptural aspect, rather than just the historical aspect. And in the Ramayana, one of the aspects, the part that leads up to, the turbulence, the conflict that every great epic has, is this young man who, even if we don't look at as the embodiment of God, and we look at just as a historical figure, well, he was the embodiment of righteousness, of dharma, of goodness. He embodied a perfect son, a perfect husband, a perfect brother, later on a perfect father, and a perfect king. Where Bhagawan Krishna in his youth tends to be depicted much more mischievously, playfully. Bhagawan Ram in his youth is depicted as just this ideal being on every level. His father, King Dashrath, decides as he's advancing in years that it's really time to coronate his son as the next king. And of course, Ram is the unanimous accepted choice. And on the day that Ram was supposed to be coronated, instead of being coronated, he gets told by his father that not only is he not going to be coronated, and his brother Bharat is going to be coronated in his place, but actually he is going to be sent into exile, into the jungles for the next 14 years. There's a whole karmic tapestry behind that. I won't go into all of it now. It's a story of karmic threads interweaving. We'll talk about that maybe a different night when we talk about karma, destiny. But here, as we talk about Bhagwan Ram being told that he has to go off into exile. Now you imagine, how many times in your life have you received something that you felt like you didn't really deserve? Meaning, you'd been as nice as you could, as loving as you could, as helpful as you could. But you get treated like you're a piece of junk. You do everything you possibly can to help others, to be a good person, to show love. But so frequently in exchange, instead of getting appreciation and love back, right, we get people treating us not quite as nicely as we'd like them to. This happens all the time. It happens in families. It happens in workplaces. It happens in schools. It happens in communities. Every day people come and say, I don't know what to do. I was so nice. I was so loving. I'm doing everything I can. And this one just treats me like a piece of trash. I'm doing everything I can to be nice, but they're so mean to me. This is tragically part of human society. And when it happens to most of us, our reaction is, this isn't fair. Like, why me? I do everything right. And what do I get? There was a very famous book published decades ago called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Right? Famous book, famous teaching. This is the perennial question. If it doesn't get asked as in, I was so nice, why do they treat me like junk? Then it gets asked as in, this person was so good. Or I was so good. Why do these bad things keep happening? Losing my job, losing my family, losing my money, losing this. I try to be so good. Why is God punishing me? Why is the world punishing me? These are perennial questions that we have. And in the Ramayana, we're given this beautiful example of someone who behaves, lives far better than any of us could possibly even imagine. Someone who literally never makes mistakes, doesn't lose his temper, doesn't give in to lust or greed or ego or ignorance or jealousy, who really is every minute of every moment of every day this epitome of goodness. And what does he get? 14 years in exile? Not only not the kingdom, but he loses everything he has. Because he can't take with him anything. He has to just go and live like a tribal person, foraging for food. But he doesn't say, this isn't fair. He doesn't say, no way. You're the one who made this promise. You deal with it, not me. Because it wasn't his story, it was his father who owed 2 boons, 2 promises to one of his wives, who was the one who had made him send Ram into exile. He could have easily said, if he was a kid of today, he would have said, no way. That's your stuff. You did that. That's your mistake. You deal with it. Don't ruin my life over it. Forget it. Not fair. No way. Fight your own battles. But what Ram showed us was this beautiful teaching of how to take everything that comes as that which is meant to happen, as that which we actually are meant to go through for our own lives. He didn't take it as a punishment. He wasn't resentful. He bowed to his father and he said, absolutely, I will leave immediately. With gladness, with humility. And the question asks about sacrifice. But I don't think he took it as a sacrifice. When we sacrifice, there's always an element of kind of, I'm giving up something that I want, that's valuable to me for you. So, I'm really, really, really thirsty. I really want this glass of water. But, all right, you've asked me for it. Okay, I can sacrifice it and give it to you. That's sacrifice. I really want it. I'm really thirsty. But, all right, I'll give it to you. That's sacrifice. That's not how he did it. It was not, I really wanted the kingdom. I'm really attached to this life of luxury. I was so comfortable. But, all right, I'll do it for you. It wasn't that. There was gladness in his heart, not sacrifice. He stood up to this moment knowing this was the opportunity for his dharma. Not that he just had to deal with it because of his father's mistake or moment of, promising these things to a wife. But he took it as a spiritual opportunity. And that's the lesson, is how can we live our lives, whatever comes, not begrudgingly, not complaining, not grumbling, not feeling like, we deserve something so much better. I mean, how easy for him to say, how dare you? Right? So many people, how dare you? Don't you know who I am? But no. He took this as a sacred opportunity. Not just to kill demons, not just to be a warrior hero, but actually to fulfill this sacred karma, this sacred dharma. And that's the message for us. How to take everything that comes in our life, not begrudgingly, not like, oh, well, I guess I've got to go through it. Not thinking it's beneath us. I mean, imagine that you are the one deemed to be king. Now you've got to forage for berries, hunt for food. How easy to think that's so beneath me. I'm on earth for something so much bigger and better. My purpose is bigger, my purpose is higher. No. He knew this is my purpose right here, right now, to fulfill this. And so it's about surrender more than sacrifice. But not surrender in a negative way, surrender to the divine plan that always knows something so much deeper, so much bigger, so much fuller. There's so many kings in the world. So many people have been king. We don't even remember their names. But Ram, Bhagwan Ram, who went into the forest, who vanquished the demons, who finally vanquished Ravan, the 10-headed demon king, came back. His name is chanted in every corner of the world. Every day, God knows how many hundreds of millions of people chant Ram, 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 Ram. His dharma was more than just getting his rightful place as king. And that's the teaching for us. Is that which arises in our life, that which comes for whatever reason, whether it seems to be the highest use of our potential or not, whether it seems to be worthy of us or not, to surrender to a divine plan that knows the way that we will be used here on planet Earth, that knows the way that we will ripple across the world with that impact. And that's the message, is how can we fold our hands with gladness in our heart and surrender to the divine plan, fully stepping up to it as our dharma, as our purpose. Nothing is beneath us. Knowing that there is a plan that is unfolding for not only our highest good, but for the highest good of the universe, in which our life will spread and impact and ripple.
Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going Om. My passion is sifting through information, research and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
To get inside
each other's mind.
walk a mile in my shoes.
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. There's two pieces there. One is the reaction we have to what that family member has done that hurts us. Okay? So the first part is essentially how we deal with that pain, that hurt, that reaction based on what they have done. When there is something they have done and it has hurt us, and we cannot let it go, how we deal with it. And the second part essentially is when the relationship itself is not healthy for us, then what to do. And I've purposely separated them into two parts because holding a grudge against someone full of pain, full of anger, full of resentment is actually much more unhealthy than any actual relationship is. I'm not saying there aren't relationships that are unhealthy. There are, and we'll come to that. But you need to realize that your resentment, your grudge, is actually much more unhealthy than anything that someone else might be doing short of actual abuse. Because the grudge, the pain, the resentment, the anger is a poison in you that is literally festering in you every minute of every day. It's impacting everything you think about. It's impacting everything you do. It's preventing you from living your life in peace, in joy, in freedom. So before we even come to the what do we do about the relationship, it's really important that you let go. That doesn't mean you hold on to the relationship. You may decide to let go of the relationship, but you still need to let go of the pain. Regardless of what you do with the relationship, you've got to let go of the pain because that is what's going to kill you. That internal grudge, that anger, that's going to kill you. That's why we forgive. We don't forgive because what everyone does is okay. We don't forgive because what everyone does is forgivable. We forgive because if we don't forgive, that which they did will kill us, steal our lives, steal our peace, steal our health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. And so even if we never talk to the person again, even if we never see the person again, we still have to forgive. Forgiving doesn't mean I want you back in my life. Forgiving doesn't mean, oh yeah, that was so great. Would you just abuse me again? Let's try that one again. It's not what it means. What it means is I deserve to be free. Regardless of what you did to me, I deserve to be free. Regardless of your ego, fear, anger, pain, arrogance, illusion, confusion, I deserve to be free. And as long as I'm holding on to pain and a grudge, I am not free. So you must let go. That must be the very first thing you do. Your relationship with yourself is far more important than your relationship with anyone else. Deal with them later. Deal with yourself first. Imagine you're walking down the street and someone comes up to you to steal your purse. They come to mug you and they stab you with a knife. Okay? Straight in. You've been stabbed. You're gushing blood. What are you going to do? You're going to get up and run after them? Come back here. Who the hell do you think you are? Give me back my purse. You hurt me. I'm going to call the police. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go to a hospital. You're going to call a doctor. You're going to do something to stop up your bleeding wound. Because you understand, I'm dying here. I'll deal with them later. File a police report later. Get my bag back later. But if I spend my attention and time going after them now, I'm not going to make it. I'm gushing blood. I have to take care of myself first. And this is true whether someone stabs you with a knife or with their words or with their actions. When you have been hurt, the longer you hold on to it, the longer you run after them, metaphorically or physically, trying to show them, get them, do something related to them, the longer that wound has to grow and fester and get infected and ultimately kill you. So first things first, take care of your pain. Take care of your grudge. And the only way to do that is to forgive. And if you can't just do it on your own, get some help. But make that a priority. Get spiritual help. Get psychological help. Get whatever help you need to forgive and let go and move on. Then you can deal with the relationship. And then you can ask yourself, is this a relationship that makes sense for me? A lot of times we may think a relationship isn't healthy just because it's difficult. We may think a relationship isn't healthy just because someone, pushes our buttons and it's a little bit more challenging to stay in peace around that person. But that doesn't necessarily mean the relationship is bad for us. The relationship may be a great sadhana, a great tapasya. We pay a lot of money for a gym membership to go to the gym and actually lift up weights that hurt our arms. It hurts to do it. But we actually pay money. We give up our lunch hour. We give up our free time to go and do it because we know that pain while I'm doing it is actually building the muscle. So that in the future I can do a lot more of this without being in pain. And I'm not saying this is the case for you because I don't know the situation of your relationship. And I'm not saying that every relationship is okay. There absolutely are relationships that are, poison for you. But before you rush out of it, ask yourself, is this just, God who's given me some emotional barbells or some spiritual weights in the house that I have to lift up a few times in the morning, a few times midday, a few times in the evening? Is this just God giving me kind of a free home spiritual gym to build up my internal muscles? And if so, don't run away so fast. Anybody who's ever tried to get someone else to exercise knows how difficult it is, right? The person who doesn't want to exercise says, I don't feel like it. I'd rather just why can't I just stay home and watch TV? And you're saying, come on, you got to come with me for a jog. We got to go to the gym. Come on. I know it hurts, but you're going to feel so much better afterwards. Well, in the same way, spiritually and emotionally, we may say, I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to talk to that person. I don't want to have to do this work. But really ask yourself before you leave it, is the situation actually poison for me? Or is it just my home spiritual gym that God's given me to build up my spiritual muscles? So really be careful about that before you decide that the problem really is the other person. See whether building up some spiritual muscles doesn't change it for you. And then if you find that for whatever reason that relationship really is poison, and usually the only things in my book that would qualify it as that is if the person you're having a relationship with is abusive, physically, verbally, emotionally, sexually, or if that person is preventing you from actually living your dharma. If that person is actually preventing you, either physically or through emotional manipulation, from fulfilling your dharma, those in my book would be the only situations in which I would actually say, get out. Otherwise, relationship is a yoga. It's a yoga. It's a spiritual practice. It's not something that comes easy. Whether it's spouses, whether it's parents and children, whether it's in-laws, whether it's co-workers, whether it's neighbors, there's always some kind of, you move a few blocks away, you got a different neighbor, different situation. This one's dog barked, the new one plays music till midnight. It's always going to be something. You're much better off working it out where you are in yourself, getting those spiritual muscles strong, rather than just trying to remove from your life things that rub you in the wrong way. Because that leaves you very spiritually and emotionally weak. But if it is really wrong and it is really poison, then yeah, you need to have the courage to save yourself.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September? Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job and getting back on his feet? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. He's asked, how can we have real faith in God? And how can we have patience to experience God. Pehle hum bharosa le le, third, dheeraj aa jaye. Yeah. So faith, the reason that a lot of us don't have faith, or we have faith and we lose faith, is because we tend to see the divine very much like a vending machine. We want something. We do that which we think we need to do to get what we want. And when we don't get it, we think, machine is broken. Like if we walk up to a vending machine and we put in our money and we push the button for chocolate bar, but we don't get chocolate bar out. Maybe we get a bag of carrots out or a bottle of water out. Instead of thinking we've been given that which we need rather than that which we want, we assume machine is broken. Maybe we'll try again, we'll put in more money. Maybe we'll kick the machine, maybe we'll shake it a little bit. And if it doesn't work, to fir lagta hai ki toot gaye, machine is broken. Sadly, the same thing happens with our faith in God. We do our prayers, we do our mantra, we do our pujas, we do whatever we think being a good spiritual or religious person means. But we take it, sadly, very much like it's kind of a contract bargaining system. I do this for you, and then you do that for me. I will do 11 malas of jap, and you will make sure that my child gets into the university they want to go to. I will donate money to the mandir. I will sponsor the Monday's Abhishek. And in exchange, my child should find a very good husband or wife, the one that I want. We look at God like we are buying something on Amazon, right? Like I'm going to give this much money and I'm going to get that and it'll be home delivery. 24-hour service. But that's not how God works. There's no scripture, there's no teaching that says, here's your menu. You want happiness? You want the right husband or wife for your children? This many rounds of japa, this much puja, this many abhisheks. Doesn't say that anywhere. You want a good job? This many abhishek, this much puja, this much japa. There's no menu. Because God is not about bargaining. But इसलिए हमारे विश्वास टूटते हैं क्योंकि लगता है कि मैंने सब कुछ तो किया मेरी ओर से और भगवान की ओर से कुछ आ नहीं रहे जो मैं चाहती हूँ, तो इसका मतलब है कि वेंडिंग मशीन तो काम नहीं करते. तो अपनी भरोसा जो है, अपना श्रद्धा, अपना विश्वास वो टूटते हैं. तो हमें याद रखना है कि भगवान के साथ बार्गेन नहीं करना. It's not a two-way street with God. It's not, I do this for you, then you will do that for me. It's, I come to you, surrender myself to you, not because then I'm going to get something, but because then I will actually be free. Because until I am with you, as long as I'm holding on to this ignorance, to these desires, to this fear, to this story, I am suffering. I am the one who's suffering. By coming to you, I let go of my suffering. By coming to you, I get wisdom. This is why our prayers say things like, Asato ma sadgamaya, lead me from falsehood to truth. Tamso ma jyotirgamaya, lead me from darkness, means ignorance, to light, means wisdom. There's no prayer that says, lead me from being just a low-level mail clerk to being the CEO of the company. Lead me from living in a small one-story house to living in a mansion. This is not what we're supposed to be praying to God for. Lead me from being single to being married. Lead me from being not so attractive to being Miss Universe. These are not the prayers that we are given. There's no scripture you're going to find that's the remove the pimples from my face prayer. Make me very attractive to the opposite sex or same sex, whatever you want prayer. Those prayers don't exist. Because what we're supposed to be praying for is wisdom, truth, clarity, not things. But as long as our mind thinks that we want things, or comforts, or convenience, or luxury, well, then we're going to think the machine is broken. So we lose our faith. When we realize that God's promise to us is, come to me fully, and your suffering will end. Not that things in the world will start going your way. Not that you won't get fired or dumped by a loved one. Not that your house won't burn down. Not that you won't lose your money. Those promises are not there. But come to me and your suffering that is born out of ignorance, that you will be free of. Come to me. And this cycle of birth and death, in which you are just living in ignorance and a slave to your karmic package, that cycle you will be free of. Not come to me, I will free you of the traffic, or come to me, I will free you of an annoying boss. Not that. Come to me, I will free you of the cycle of samsara. I will free you of the cycle of birth and death. That's what we should be praying for. And when we pray for that, then our faith is not lost. So we have to ask ourselves, what was I expecting? Jiski wajah se mera vishwas toot gaye, due to which I lost my faith. And in terms of having patience, well, my guru, Puja Swamiji, always says, if you don't want to be a patient with a T in the hospital, if you don't want to be a patient in the hospital, be patient, have patience. मतलब अगर बीमार नहीं होना चाहते हैं, hospital में नहीं जाना चाहते हैं, तो फिर have patience. To not be a patient, you must have patience. Be patient or become a patient. Because when we are not patient, we get frustrated, we get depressed, we get miserable. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, all of that goes up. So we end up a patient. How to have patience? By realizing that every moment is a gift. You say, how to have patience for God. Well, God is here already. God isn't anywhere other than here. Realize that. Realize the perfection of this moment. In this moment, yes, you may be waiting for an experience, an opening, a transformation, enlightenment, samadhi, whatever we call it. But realize that this very moment is also perfect. Because in this very moment, God is also there. Our sadhana is not that which brings God. Our sadhana is that which cleans our eyes, cleans our vision, so we can see the divine which is already there. So if you find yourself impatient, it means our eyes have to be cleaned a little more, a little more, a little more, so that we can actually see the divine in this moment. But also, as you're longing for God, for more God, more presence of the divine, more of an experience, just think of Shabri. Right? Think of Shabri, who just every day swept the floor of not only her house, but of all the roads, waiting for Bhagwan Ram to come. She wasn't impatient. She didn't start yelling and screaming. She didn't lose faith. Just singing every day as she swept the floor, knowing God was going to come. So if you find yourself impatient, just channel Shabri. Channel her. With that bhav, that bhakti, knowing ki it'll happen.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rain.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. If you remember someone who's passed away, are you somehow holding back their soul? No, you're not. If the karma was all done between them, she wouldn't be devastated and distraught that she thinks she's the one who killed him. The very power of that energy within her is a signal that there is stuff still to be worked out. On her side, at least. His soul, even being wherever it is now, she's not. It's so hard to think about it because we're so used to dealing with things physically, and it would sound like somehow, well, you left me here in Rishikesh, you got on an airplane to Mumbai. Now, by remembering you, am I somehow dragging you from Mumbai back to Rishikesh in order to have this conversation? No. As a body, I would have to do that. If I want to have a conversation with you, I would have to drag that body from Mumbai back to Rishikesh. or use something like a phone so that you from Mumbai could talk to me. But the soul is different. There's not an aspect of it being able to be in Mumbai and being inaccessible to her in Rishikesh. Because when someone's body dies, we don't lose the connection that we had to their soul. There was a coming together of souls that doesn't disappear just because the body is no longer there and now the soul has a new body. There's so many bodies. I mean, what about people who lifetimes ago had some relationship? Now today there is some aspect of that bearing fruit coming into today. That soul that she was connected to is still accessible to her by her soul inside. And it's not going to drag his soul from Bombay back to Rishikesh. He can be on his journey while she is accessing him. And that which she has to say to him, he will be able, in whatever way you understand that souls understand and feel or hear or know, that peace that will actually bring about an even more complete conclusion karmically. Because if you were in a situation where your wife was, and I don't know whether she really was horrible or she just feels horrible. I don't know who asked this. But imagine that you were in a situation where someone really was horrible to you. I mean, imagine you were in a very abusive situation. And someone actually murdered you, let's say. Well, you no longer have a body. The soul is now on its journey, but it's very clear there is still some unfinished karma with the guy who murdered you. That's a karmic interaction that on some level, in your next life, in the life after that, there's going to be a resolution somewhere to that karmic experience. And if the person who did it suddenly realizes, suddenly repents while they're still in that life, that's going to have an impact on the future karmic work that needs to be done. So yeah, don't worry about him being held back in any way. The only thing that can hold back souls is if those they've left behind really can't let them go. There's absolutely teachings that say, yes, obviously grieve, but then stop grieving. Because when you hold on too much, it makes it difficult for that soul to go, because on some level there's still an attachment to the loved ones who have been left behind. But that's not what I'm hearing this woman ask. I'm not hearing her say, I need him back, how dare he leave me, this isn't fair, he needs to stay, he can't go, I can't live without him, I need him. I hear her feeling incredibly guilty for the way she was before he passed on, and needing resolution with that. So that's not something that's going to prevent him from moving forward. In fact, it seems to me that would actually be something that would contribute to him being able to move forward, because it would ease in some way the conflicted karma from the situation in which he left. I mean, if you imagine he loved her and she was horrible to him, well, there's conflicts there. And that stays. I mean, remember, man, buddhi, ahankar, that subtle body, the sukshma sharir, travels with the soul. And all of that is impacted by the thoughts we have, the experiences we're having, the sanskaras that we have. And so her actually reaching out to resolve on some level some of that karmic experience could absolutely have an impact in that subtle body and the impressions that are traveling with his soul, and actually make the journey even easier. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on Om Times Radio.